Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Greetings and salutations, and a big warm welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. We're all living in an era of big data and invisible AI algorithms that make our lives easier when choosing a music playlist, choosing a movie to watch, or even the news stories that appear on our news feeds. But today, I wanted to talk with Dirk Kanngiesser, and he's the CEO and co-founder of Cryptowerk. And I've invited him on today to explore an incredibly interesting topic such as data integrity, deepfake, and AI's Achilles heel. And also some of the greatest cybersecurity threats that are going to be facing organisations, from simple acts of revenge by a disgruntled employee to corporate espionage and even a nation-state attack. So in an age of manipulated data, deepfake techniques and unending data breaches are something that companies need to know about when they're using pristine data in their AI systems. Toxic data, of course, can cripple an organisation's faith in artificial intelligence and wreak havoc on their business systems if they just rush in, embracing new technology without putting the thought in first. I don't want to reveal too much about what we're going to be talking about today, but there's some incredibly exciting stuff. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Dirk, not only about the fantastic work he's doing with Cryptowerk, but also the road ahead and what this technological change can mean for businesses. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Dirk. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, thank you, Neil. I am excited to talk to you today here from San Mateo in California. As you can hear undoubtedly from my accent, I am a German who escaped to the Bay Area about 10 years ago. And having been a former venture capitalist about 10 years ago, I moved into the entrepreneurial side of things and love to found startups. And the last one is actually 2 years ago. I founded with the professor for blockchain of UC Berkeley, another German, by the way, and put a team around it. The company is called Cryptowerk, and work like the German work. So we kept a little bit of the heritage. And we are a small company still, did a Series A funding, about 20 people. And Cryptowerk addresses the market of trying to bring to the world trusted data, and I'm more than happy to tell you what I think about that is what it's all about.
Fantastic. And I love what you've done there. You've escaped to a beautiful part of the world and you've created this company, but you've still kept your own heritage in there. And I think that's a fantastic thing. And Cryptowerk, for anyone new tuning in, provides a massively scalable blockchain as a service solution for enterprise applications. But can you just help set the scene a little and tell everyone listening a little bit more about exactly what it is, and of course, what problems you solve for your customers?
Sure. First of all, the question deals always with the question of trust, right? And if you talk, that's the primary promise of blockchains, to create trust. However, there is a little bit of a different question, because if you look at a lot of applications, blockchains have been applied to create trust among trusted parties, which you could also translate into a lot of the private blockchains, where the number of nodes are somewhat limited, right? And therefore, the nodes could be influenced and controlled potentially, but it's a wonderful mechanism to create trust among trusted parties. If you want to create trust among independent, non-trusting parties, actually the public blockchains, predominantly used for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum, actually do provide the mechanism of having 10,000 of nodes around the world. However, the public blockchains face a problem of scalability and, of course, transaction costs. Let me talk quickly about transaction costs. I mean, I don't even know, they're probably 30 to 50 cents right now. On the Bitcoin blockchain, they probably were up to $50 sometime. Highly volatile, but 30 to 50 cents per a single transaction is nothing where you can create a transaction for a single data entry in a database. If we want to bring trust to data, we need to find a technology, we need to find mechanisms to bring undoubtedly immutable trust to on massive scale to the world. This is what Cryptowerk has solved to a proprietary technology. And let me talk just very simply about the technology. The effect is that we actually can, as a kind of a middleware, write into a number of blockchains in parallel. The public blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also any other blockchain. We have APIs to Hashgraph, IBM Hyperledger if people want to have a private blockchain. But predominantly we use the public blockchains Bitcoin and Ethereum to write hashes into them. We are a strong believer that no actual data should go onto the blockchains for generating the trust, but only hashes of the data. The problem, so we do that. And we do that on a fraction of a penny, basically a factor of about 1,000 less than when you usually would pay for the public blockchain like Bitcoin and Ethereum. At the same time, we can write 1 million of transactions per second into the public blockchains. So everyone will now scratch their head and ask, how do we do that? And that is our proprietary technology. I'm happy to explain a little bit if that is useful to your users. But in some ways, if you simply draw a two-dimensional diagram, and obviously every startup wants to be on the top left. So I tell you why I am believing that we are on the top left. When you draw transaction speed and security immutability on the two axes. Public blockchains usually have about 10,000 nodes. We write in Bitcoin and Ethereum in parallel, so combine the number of nodes. And from the transaction speed, public blockchains are limited to 5 to 15 seconds transactions worldwide. We do that on 1 million transactions. Without, and that's the important key behind this, is without changing the underlying blockchain algorithms. That's our secret sauce. And that I could explain a little bit more, of course, more in detail. But that is the underlying principle where we believe that we can generate the ultimate trust generated through public blockchains by writing hashes into the blockchains.
Excellent. Now, I'm not sure if it's my IT past there, but I think it's often important to talk about some of the problems on the road ahead before jumping straight into solution mode. And something I read recently was, I think it was Admiral Michael S. Rogers of the US Navy and director of the NSA, and he said that data tampering could quickly become the greatest cybersecurity threat any organisation can face. So can you expand on that and the kind of risks around everything from a simple act of revenge by a disgruntled employee to corporate espionage or even a nation-state attack?
Yes, absolutely. And he is absolutely right to highlight this point. And a lot of organizations and enterprises also think about their future problem. Hackers will not only steal data anymore. What they might want to do is actually change one bit in a GPS drilling coordinates of an oil rig platform, right? Which actually recently has happened and cost the company which was handling it about $70 million because the coordinates of the GPS data were wrong and they discovered it too late that someone tampered with that very simple data set. So the question really arises more and more is, how do we trust our data, right? And how do we really make sure, and trust in the data means that we have a way to prove that they have not been tampered with. Tampered with means, again, not replacing them always sometimes or putting a virus in them, but simply changing them in a database, in a point of record, in a registry, right? And that is actually where more and more people currently scratch their head and say, what kind of mechanisms do we actually have? Can we install in our complex existing processes we have in the world without reinventing the processes? But we need to find a mechanism like a kind of a notarization to our data, right? Where we can make sure that the data we are passing on, the data we are handling, the data we are dealing with every day, the data in the future we let AI algorithms run upon, right? How we can make sure that these data are actually the original data and have not been tampered with.
So in an age of manipulated data, can you tell me a little bit more about how deep fake techniques and unending data breaches, and also and how companies need to know that they're using pristine data in their AI systems?
Absolutely. I mean, deep fake is something which you have realized probably on some YouTube videos, where you basically now can regenerate images and actually synchronize it in a way that even sophisticated algorithms and analytical programs cannot discover whether this was the original speaker or whether it is actually completely faked. And in many ways, any news right now you see, any news clip you download from Reuters, who tells you that Reuters has not been fed with a faked video clip? Yeah. We simply don't know anymore, right? And that, of course, is a concern. It's a concern because the world relies on authenticity of the original. If that is not given anymore, we have significant problems coming up. So that, of course, can be brought further down, and think about the more and more we give decision-making power to machines, very simple ones first, right? Based on algorithms, based on AI, based on deep learning, where actually the algorithms over time are very dynamic. They consistently change. They should change because they want to improve. So how do we actually know also later on, from a governance point of view, from a regulator point of view, if something goes wrong, what was the algorithm company XYZ has used at December 18 at 4:36 for a decisive process? Please prove to me what that process was. We currently have very limited mechanisms to actually prove that these data, these algorithms, were exactly the ones used.
And I also think people often forget that much of AI is just math. And if you put garbage in, ultimately, you're going to get garbage right back out again. So can you expand a little on why toxic data could actually cripple an organisation's faith in AI and wreak havoc in their business systems when they've gone about things completely the wrong way?
Well, of course. I mean, right now, it goes one level deeper. And let me tackle it from a couple of points here. One is archiving of data is a standard since many, many decades. However, more and more, we are also not sure whether our archives have not been tampered with. So if our core data platform is tampered with, what we usually do is we mirror it from an archive. Well, in a world where we are not sure anymore whether even our archives are tamper-proof, what is our single source of proof that we can be 100% sure that our data have not been tampered with? Blockchain can answer this question. Some technologies can answer this question. I think it will be a very big, important topic to discuss further, how people can really rely, even on their archiving systems, that data have not been tampered with. In regard to your question, garbage in, garbage out, obviously, our technologies we are working on and our solutions are not working on the quality of the data. I cannot change the garbage in. However, I can make sure that we verify what garbage or good data has gone in, and that they're identical to through a process that the garbage out data are actually later on not being tampered with. So in other ways, when you want to be sure that the overall garbage in, garbage out ratio is improving, you should also make sure that the in and the out is provable to the outside world that it has not been tampered with.
So before understanding how and why decisions were made, it seems that many organisations must be able to stand by the integrity of their data that's used by AI too. And like you were talking about there, the proof. But can you tell me more about verifiable AI, when an organisation can provide immutable proof that the data used by the AI systems is actually completely unaltered?
Well, absolutely. One simple way to actually do that is we all know that we can hash data. We can make fingerprints of data. And there are standard, even open source algorithms, how the world does that every day. You, of course, can also make hashes of algorithms, hashes of AI processes, because of a patch file, of any kind of an recording of a process. You can hash that as well. If you assume right now that you could put this hash in a global notary office, like the public blockchains, right? And you can do that at scale. You could, at any given point in time, even 20 or 30 years later, when you need to prove that that specific patch was the patch you have used, and you want to make sure, is that really the one which is identical to the original? You would rehash it 20 years from now and make a hash-to-hash comparison, assuming that the underlying blockchains you have actually written the hash into are still in existence. So that would be a wonderful world, assuming that you can do that very inexpensively, almost at zero cost. You can do it at massive scale, and you can do it into blockchains which are hopefully in existence at that point in time, and or have had the ability, when new blockchain and consensus algorithms would have come up, to make them completely interoperable among each other. That would be the holy grail, a holy grail Cryptowerk is working on, and actually has provided a solution.
And we are talking about a lot of real problems and real solutions here, and I'd love to continue that. So could you also help people listening visualize the emerging threats, and also explain how AI vendors such as IBM, for example, are actually implementing verifiable AI into their products?
Well, indeed. The verification, however, is a sliding scope, and many corporations indeed already use blockchains in trying to create trust. You see a lot of companies and startups around the world who are working on creating their own consensus algorithms based on a limited number of nodes. The ultimate question, however, will still remain: whom do you trust? Historically, you all know this old word, we don't get fired to buy IBM. Is that really the answer we want to provide going forward? Or does the world need an independent, verifiable source of independent, immutable trust? This is not the question of technology creating another consensus algorithms. This is the question whether we are able and willing to create an immutable, independent, final source of truth and trust.
So if we do have any business leaders listening to us today, and a lot of the words we're talking about and the topics we're discussing really resonate with them, how can organisations, in your opinion, build safety measures into a system before it actually enters an AI algorithm?
Well, there are, of course, as I said, I'm not the expert in optimizing the garbage in.
Yeah.
Right? So, obviously, people are working on this in making sure that the data you are feeding into the algorithms are the best data possible. What companies like Cryptowerk and others can provide is through a very simple attached process by generating hashes of the data that actually you can always later on prove what have you put in. And you can prove that without the startup or the technology which you have bought from someone, right? That is what I think enterprises need, to have a way to prove what they actually have put into the algorithms is has been the original, the authentic data they have intended to put in. That already solves a big problem. I am not the expert. I cannot solve the quality of the AI algorithms. But what the world has solved by now is that the data you put into the algorithms are not, you can make sure that they're not being tampered with.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. I'm curious, is there anything else you can share with us today about Cryptowerk and also the road ahead for you guys, and what excites you about that road ahead?
Well, I tell you a couple of things which excite me from my German environmental hat. We are working, for instance, with one of the largest Australian utility companies where they want to significantly increase the renewable amount in their energy mix. However, the more renewables you have, the more dynamic you need to manage your grid systems. And when you need to manage your grid system dynamically, you come to transactive energy and dynamic pricing between the consumers and the utility provider. That, however, requires new trust mechanisms, because this transaction can happen then every 5 seconds or so, and not on a daily basis or on a monthly basis where you might actually change your rate plan. If you are able and willing to do that on a very dynamic way, these new trust systems need to be established, and establishing these records and making sure that whatever happens on a transaction basis is then actually being able to record it in an effective and efficient way. This is something what we are currently providing. I'm very excited about this because it's a bit of a small little piece of the backbone of how we actually can increase the amount of renewables in our energy grid without going dark with our old grid systems. So love that, right? Obviously, I'm excited about that some of our customers have a new idea about the controlled share of data. Because if you want to have more and more customers want to share data with suppliers, with others, but they want to do it in a controlled way, in a cloud way, but they want to record everything what is happening, who is writing, who is reading, who has a key, right? And again here, these are millions of events. If you have an inexpensive mechanism to record all of these events through hashes and store them in the blockchain, I'm sure you can imagine what kind of wonderful business models can be created there. This is the road Cryptowerk is taking, and I'm very excited about it.
Fantastic. And before I let you go, if there's anyone listening that wants to keep up to speed with everything that you're doing at Cryptowerk and the latest developments and roadmaps, etc., can you just remind them of where they can find you online, and also contact a member of your team if they've just got any additional questions after listening to our conversation today?
Absolutely. I mean, they can go through our website. That's probably the easiest way. And there is also contact information. And maybe let me just spell the website, because it indeed is this crypto, probably everyone knows with a C, crypto. And then it has this German work, werk.com. So cryptowerk.com here in San Mateo. And yes, indeed, we speak even German, right? And I convinced my team to even love still German beer, to a wonderful, exciting team of enterprise software guys here, all Americans. And I gave them a wonderful education about what German heritage means. And it's a wonderful team. I'm really excited to be here, and hope to see you guys soon, sometime in the UK. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, if you ever do come to the UK, or next time I'm on the West Coast there, we'll definitely have to hook up and have a nice cold German beer, because there is nothing better than that. And I'll also add the links to the blog post that will accompany this podcast episode to your website and your social channels, just so people can find you nice and easily. But for me, it just seems that Cryptowerk is right at the heart of this exciting space at the moment, and it seems like you've got an incredibly bright future. So I'd love to stay in touch with you and continue to learn from you on your journey. But more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me today on this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. And all the best to your listeners. Good luck, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Wow, we covered so many areas there, and I'm guilty of not thinking of many of them. Whether it be addressing the emerging threats and explaining how AI vendors But I think but my big takeaway and most valuable aspect of what we discussed today was how organisations can build safety measures into their systems before they even think about entering it into an AI algorithm. We've all heard the shiny tech stories by those sexy tech headlines of AI, blockchain, etc. But stopping and thinking about the implications of everything that we do, now that's a topic we don't discuss enough. But maybe, just maybe, that's the boring, careful IT guy from my former life that still rules my mind. And of course, that was because I've been on the other side and seen what happens when you don't think about that stuff. But enough of me and how I've grown weary and been battered down from my IT battle scars. What are your thoughts on the topics we discussed today? And do you have any stories and experiences that you can share with me today? Anonymously, of course, if you want to avoid getting into trouble with your employer. But you can email me in confidence, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Tweet me or Instagram is just at Neil C. Hughes. And feel free to talk about anything that we've mentioned in today's conversation, or indeed anything at all. And also, if there are any other subjects that you would like to hear more of on this Daily Tech podcast, again, let me know. It's my job to serve you, my loyal audience. So if you give me a few pointers, I'll gladly see what I can do. But I'll return back tomorrow with another fantastic guest. But before I walk off into that digital sunset, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for stopping by and listening to this podcast and say those words. Thanks for listening. Until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.